Hi, and welcome to the coaching show, the show that's all about coaching and is produced in partnership with Corporate Coaching Academy. I'm Brian Fernandez, and today we'll explore the title Venus, Mars, and a Coach Coaching for Aspiring Women's Leaders. Now, this is in conjunction with International Women's Month. Now, to give us insights, we have a very distinguished guest today. She is Chooi Hoon. She's a board member, certified master coach, and accredited HRDF trainer. Now, on that note, CH, welcome to the show.
Hello, Brian, and thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on, CH. Now, for a start, could you give us an overview of your rich corporate background and then how you transitioned into coaching?
Well, it was probably 17 years ago, back in 2008, when I was already a marketing director for Sara Lee at that point in time, and probably one of the youngest, marketing director at that point in time. I hit the first crossroad of my career, and I was thinking, do I take an MBA or hey, try on something? And at the start of the luck, I was going through NST newspaper. That's one fine Sunday morning, and I came across this article from Dr. Michael Hia, and he was talking about coaching in business. And it also struck me that I've always wondered whether leadership is an art or a science. And before I knew it, I enrolled and I got myself, to be a CPC at that point in time. And I remember graduating finally in 2010. So that's how I started my journey. And also I found the answer. And the answer that leadership, it's not an art, it's also not science. It is actually both. And that's because leadership is about making that lead to another person, another human, right? So, and because of that, I went on, in fact, last year to finally do my master, in coaching. And through the years of my career, in FMCG for a good 25 years, my career, and finally becoming, a CEO for one of the large retailer in Malaysia, as that last thing, of my career before I retired, 2.5 years ago. So that's how I got into coaching. And through the years, right, I've actually taken what I learned, as a coach to progress, in my career as a people manager and hopefully a people leader.
And so this is interesting because you were schooled in that whole FMCGs. FMCGs like Sara Lee give you great training, and like you said, you were there for a good 20 plus years. But then one of the things you did, which is very interesting and unique in Malaysia, was really you transitioned to be a CEO of a brand that is well known in Malaysia, My News. Talk to us about that and how that shaped you as that final corporate job in your career before transitioning into coaching, mentoring people, and so forth.
For someone to be in FMCG for the longest time, and I was in MNCs, I was MNCs, I was also, in regional companies. I was also in, local, company. I started my career in Unilever, great, 5 years, and I was in Sara Lee for 11. And then there, after 16 years, in marketing, I moved on into general management, from L'Oreal, from DSG, and I was also the CEO for Ethical Beverage. Took a short, stint, and then after that, I became, the CEO of My News retail. And it would have been any dream of any FMCG marketeer to be able to actually get into the other side of the fence, which is retail, because that is the last mile in reaching the consumers. And I was given that opportunity, to head up My News as in retail, and that's and I'm grateful, for that.
Now, this show is now in conjunction with International Women's Week, Women's Month, which is this month of March. Now, tell us about the six challenges that you've identified in terms of facing women in general in terms of management?
Okay. One of the things that I was very mindful of, and also having the opportunity to coach my subordinates, or whether anybody, and I was doing it for pro bono for the longest time, that DEI advocacy has been something that's very much part of me. And when I went into decided to leave the corporate career and move into a multi-portfolio career, which is where I am. I'm consulting, doing strategic and transformation. At the same time, I sit on boards, public listed boards, and I also volunteered my time in terms of coaching women as part of some of the programs that Lead Women is doing. That's where I volunteered my time as a mentor. So if you look at what the title of our conversation today, it's about Venus, it's about Mars, and in between there is a true coach. And 35 years ago, John Gray wrote about men are from Mars and women, it's from Venus. And for me, I took a lot of interest in that because along the way, there's something that comes up to me, and I believe in that as well. That acknowledging that men and women are wired very differently, but with complementary strength in itself, it's a lever of limitless possibility. What this is saying to me is that women don't have to act like a man to be successful.
And that's a very important thing, because and that's something that a lot of women need to be cognizant of, because a lot of people think that they have to be like men in order to break the glass ceiling, but that's not strictly true, is it?
That is not, and therefore it goes back to the question that you've mentioned, just now. What are the 6 common challenges that women face, today, and even as I mentor some of the great women that we see here, right? So first thing first, women usually allow and accept that bias is a birth role. It's not birthright, no? It's a birth role.
Okay.
The second part of it is that there's a lot of imposter syndrome that's going around. Self-doubt, negative talk, to themselves.
What is bias or birth wrong?
Yeah, a biased birth wrong is that they think that it is okay. They allow it, right? When it is you can go around it. There is always a workaround. In today's IT world, we talk about workaround. Similarly, right? Do not allow and accept that bias, is correct just because you're a woman. Don't allow that. Now, I want to get on to the third one, right? After imposter syndrome, it's about women naturally need to seek permission and validation. Number 4, women are naturally perfectionists, right? And they always believe that they have to be 100% ready to attempt something. Number 5, it's about positioning yourself last. Women usually put a lot of priority in other things, other people, that surrounds their life, and they always put themselves last. And finally, women usually find networking a chore, and building that strategic alliance is a lot of hard work. So these are the 6 common challenges, that I see when I coach some of these fantastic women that has so much potential in themselves.
Okay, can we talk about some of these a little bit more? And one of the things you talked about is also the women playing multiple roles.
Yes.
That is actually a strength. So I always joke, I always have this joke throughout my career. Hey, I'm a man. I can't multitask. I'm not a woman. And this is really a strength of women who are who are able to juggle multiple roles and make things happen. That's actually something that many women don't realize, that should be played up as a strength, not as a weakness.
It is definitely true. So acknowledging that we are different and we are wired differently, right? So it is true, men are a lot more single-minded. Now, women, ability to multitask, right? It also sometimes means that they are very fickle-minded. not as straightforward, as men, right? But in itself, there is strength. You know why I say it is a strength? It is also a weakness, because these traits, right, can be played out in very, very different situations, right? And because of the ability to multitask, and that is why women always put themselves last. So to multitask is a good thing, but it's also a bad thing, because women sometimes forgot to delegate, and sometimes they forgot to ask for help because
Okay.
of that ability to multitask.
Okay. So then that also links to the fact that it's the imposter syndrome that you talked about as well.
Yes.
Because you
So
think that you put yourself last, so you're not ready, you're not back to some of the things that you talked about. Not ready, therefore not worthy. You feel like an
yes,
imposter being enrolled.
correct. So imposter syndrome is about that uncertainty that you will always have, in yourself. Now, there are good and bad when you have imposter syndrome. When you have imposter syndrome, it also means that you kind of always think that you're not 100%, you're 99%. Hopefully, it is 99%, because anything lesser than that, it becomes negative. So, if you're always thinking that you're 99%, it means that you're forever pushing the boundary to make yourself, you learn, you continue to learn, you continue to push yourself so that you're better. And in a way, you're outdoing yourself, which is great, because your own bar should be the one that you continue to push, so that you're able to push a boundary, not competing with another person. So, imposter syndrome happens when you continue to doubt yourself whether, am I really that good? And it manifests itself when somebody tells you that, hey, you did a good job. You'll be thinking, oh, did I? And usually there will be, oh, yeah, yeah, not really. Oh, it's based on luck, I just had that opportunity, or I had a lot of help. Rather than saying that, hey, I really did a good job, thank you very much. Whereas for men, it's slightly different. Oh, yeah, great, I did that. So it's very, very easy for men. Whereas women, because you're wired very differently, with that imposter syndrome, there's always this self-doubt. And eventually, if that doesn't go away or be managed better, it becomes a mechanism where you actually continue to discount yourself.
Okay, CH, the other thing that you talked about, which doesn't come naturally to women, that you advocate, is really networking. And networking, you in your view, doesn't come naturally to women. Why is that? Because in my opinion, it depends on personality types, isn't it? Even if you're a man, if you're an introvert, um, networking doesn't come naturally.
So that when we go to work, right, and many profiling, personality profiling has actually shown that there are two phases or two masks that we put ourselves. One is a personal, your natural self, that's a mask, that it's not a mask, that's a natural part of you, right? And there is a mask that we put on when we go to work, or when there is a formality that comes across, that we have to put on the mask. So we carry a very different, personality. So one may be a natural introvert. Now I am an introvert, but when I go to work, right, or when many people go to work, they actually learn along the way that there is a way to go around. So you wear a mask when you go to work, right? So it's a different personality. So when it comes to networking, right, um, you know, whether it's men and women, it all depends on whether do you think that that is a chore, or when you network, right, no one is asking you to go to that function or to go to that event and to be that chick magnet, or to be that hotspot that everybody got to zoom, put on the spotlight on you. Networking is about, do you know why you want to do it? Do you know the purpose of you going for that networking session? If it's about building that strategic alliances that's going to help you, then I think be all that is. Go in with that intention. Find out who's going there, who will be there, and whether do you have a purpose, right? Because networking is not attending a party. Networking is about whether you have a purpose going, in there. And network, right, Brian, it's so important for the women because it allows you to do three things. One, advocate for yourself. Find the right forum to get into network, build your strategic alliances. And that is strategic alliance can be found whether it is that sister, that woman that you're going to find, or that man that's going to help you. Because the women got to champion for your own growth, and networking is one of the best, resources that you can find. And finally, when you network, right, it's about borrowing the right mouth that is going to speak on your behalf when the time and the opportunity arises.
Okay, CH, I'm going to ask you a very practical question because a lot of our audience tends to be mature, senior people. However, this may be heard also by some of their subordinates. If I'm a late 20 something or early 30 something woman who has never really networked before, what advice would you give me as I start this journey? I've heard CH, I've been inspired. I said, look, I've got to do something. I'm doing well in my career, but I've never really spoken for myself or fought for myself. I've gone up the ladder because I've done well. What do I need to do? Tell me.
Okay. First, do you know what is your purpose? Do you have a purpose? Do you have a vision for yourself? So it's not me asking you when you and usually this is a question that you get when you go for an interview, right? Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years, right? So let's not go there, but it's almost the same thing. Do you have a vision where you see yourself, right? Because if you do, then is that the purpose of why you're doing certain things? Now we all wake up and gotta go to work because you gotta put dinner on the table, right? But beyond that, and that is really that motivation to grow yourself and to outgrow yourself as well, the vision. So a 20-something-year-old who has done well in the career, have a vision of where you want to go because then that becomes your purpose. But if you have that purpose, what is your positioning? How do you then position yourself? Because if you don't have a right USP of how you position yourself as that brand, you're not going to be able to uniquely introduce yourself, right? So if you have a
CH, can I?
purpose,
Okay, go
if
ahead.
you have a vision, if you have a purpose or a vision of who you are, then straighten out your positioning, and finally you put that in practice.
Okay, I'm going to dial that down one, and this is wearing my hat in my other business of 25 years in talent. So, I run Talent Search International. This year's 25 years. So I've looked at people's careers over a long haul. One of the key things that I've seen when talking to candidates over many years is this: as they move through their careers, the importance of having a godfather or godmother to guide you through your career. So whether you work in a big four accounting firm, or a bank, or an insurance company, or an FMCG, many of these companies have formalized coaching and mentoring, but then the people who really do well are the ones that seek out senior mentors. Talk to me about how perhaps in your career that has impacted you.
So I think basically it is very important that along your career, there is somebody that you can actually fall back to as in, advice, whether it's advisory, right? But bear in mind that there's between a mentor and a coach is two different things. And I know many companies has actually embarked on that as to either they give you a buddy, so they introduce a buddy system, and the higher you go, there's probably a mentor, and then finally there may be a coach. But I think it's very important to recognize that between a mentor and a coach, it's two different roles.
Yes,
Right?
correct.
So mentor is somebody who is able to give you advices based on their experience. A coach runs a completely different role because they may not be the subject matter expert, but they are somebody who is actually able to ask you the right questions in the situations that you have, or for whatever that you're talking to them. So it's a completely two different role. And I think it is very important that even if an organization does not provide that platform for you, it's important along the way that you build a mentor for yourself, or find a mentor for yourself, because these are the people who's going to be able to actually challenge you with the right questions of whether you're going the right direction, as in to find out who you are and position yourself.
What are the things and just for me as just an independent person, I think one of the things that many women will benefit from is really engaging a coach formally. Um, are you seeing that happening now in the last couple of years? A lot of times, yes, organizations hire coaches for their particularly for their high performance key personnel that they're grooming for leadership positions and so forth. So they hire a coach for them. Are you seeing then more women hiring personal coaches for themselves in terms of either life coaching or career coaching or personal coaching?
I believe that overseas, it is becoming a norm, it's becoming a trend where people will just pick up and say that, I need to talk to somebody. Therefore, they start engaging, a coaching for themselves. However, in Malaysia, probably that's not, a strong trend that's happening. And you're absolutely right that for organizations, it is quite typical for them to actually engage, coaches for CEO level or aspiring C-suites as part of their, talent development, program. But for a woman or a man to actually go out there and search, for a coach, themselves, it is not really a strong trend, yet in Malaysia. Now, for some of the work that I do, and because it's on a voluntary basis, based on the passion that I have, right? So for lead women who actually runs a lot of women development program, you see a lot of companies who are actually through this program, where we volunteer as mentors, and we have mentees, coming from aspiring, C-suites, women, in the future. What I realized is that if within the 3-4 sessions where I am a mentor on voluntary basis, what I do is that I keep on an open line, for my mentees. And eventually, right, even straight up after that 3-4 months, engagement with them, they continue to talk to me. And therefore, on that basis, Brian, I believe that there is a need. And one will get a lot more from a very structured, coaching session for a career progression, especially for women.
Now, CH, it's been a fascinating conversation. I've learned a lot, and I'm sure the audience has as well. But before we leave, what final advice would you like to give aspiring women leaders in terms of taking charge of their careers?
Well, to the sisters, out there, basically what I would tell you is that do not try to fill up a shoe, when you got promoted or when you move, in your career. I always say, bring your own shoe. And it's not about that shoe. Bring your own stiletto. Don't try to fill up that shoe.
That's fantastic advice. On that note, thank you very much, CH, for being on the show. It's really been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me again, Brian.
Now, we've been speaking to Chooi Hoon. She's a board member, certified master coach, and accredited HRDF trainer. I'm Brian Fernandez, and you've been watching and listening to BizTech's AHA, the coaching show, the show which is produced in partnership with Corporate Coaching Academy. The show will be on our website, www.biztech.asia, as well as our syndication partners, TV stations, radio stations, and websites. Thanks a lot for tuning in.